You've always felt slightly out of place. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a way you could explain to anyone without sounding strange. Just a quiet, persistent feeling, like you walked into a room and forgot why. Like something somewhere is wrong, and you've never been able to name it. Until today. It's a Tuesday afternoon. You're sitting outside. The sun is out. It's beautiful, technically. But within 10 minutes, your skin starts to burn. You shift in your chair. You pull your sleeve down. And for some reason, today of all days, that small, ordinary thing stops you cold. You think no other animal does this. You're right. And that thought, that one small thought, is about to open a door you cannot close. You start small. You pull out your phone. You type something you've never typed before. Not seriously. Why does human skin burn in sunlight? The answers come fast. Too much UV, lack of melanin, evolutionary reasons. But the more you read, the stranger it gets. Because lizards sit in direct sunlight for hours. Horses, elephants, dogs. They spend their entire lives under this exact same star and handle it just fine. Their bodies were calibrated for it. Built for it. Yours wasn't. You think about sunscreen. This chemical paste we invented, specifically so we could step outside safely. You've used it your entire life without thinking about it. Now you can't stop thinking about it. We had to invent a product just to survive our own planet's sun. You keep reading. Then you find the back pain statistics. 80%. 4 out of 5 humans will experience chronic back pain at some point in their lives. You know this. You felt this. But you never asked why. Not really. Our spines were horizontal for millions of years. Then, roughly 6 million years ago, we stood upright. Evolution tried to take a bridge and make it a tower. The discs between your vertebrae compress under gravity in ways they were never designed to handle. Kangaroos walk upright. Ostriches run on 2 legs. Neither species has this problem. Their bodies were built from the ground up for standing. Ours were not. Ours were retrofitted. Badly. You sit back in your chair. You think, what else? You find the childbirth numbers next. And for a moment you just stare at the screen. Human childbirth is the most dangerous birth process of any mammal on Earth. Not just slightly more dangerous. Categorically more dangerous. Our babies' heads are so large they barely fit through the birth canal. Before modern hospitals, before medicine, giving birth was one of the leading causes of death for women across all of human history. A horse gives birth in 30 minutes. The foal stands within the hour. A human newborn cannot even hold up its own head. It is helpless for months. It is dependent for years. More helpless, longer than any other animal that has ever existed on this planet. You think about how you were born. How every person you know was born. The sheer cost of it. The danger of it. And then you think what survival logic justifies this. You find the allergies data without even looking hard. About 30% of the global population. Your own immune system, the system built to protect you, regularly attacks pollen, peanuts, dust, cat hair, shellfish. Things that are completely harmless. Your body's defense system is at war with the environment you live in. The environment you were supposedly designed for. You close the tab. You open a new one. You find the name Francis Crick, Nobel Prize, 1962. The man who decoded the double helix structure of DNA. One of the most important scientists who ever lived. You already knew that much. What you didn't know in 1973, Crick published a paper with chemist Leslie Orgel. And in that paper, he proposed something most people have never heard of. He called it directed panspermia, the idea that life on Earth didn't originate here, that it was deliberately seeded, sent here, by an intelligent civilization from somewhere else in the galaxy. Francis Crick, the man who decoded DNA, looked at the history of life on this planet and said this doesn't add up. You read that sentence 3 times. Then you keep going. Life appeared on Earth approximately 3.8 billion years ago. The planet itself formed around 4.5 billion years ago. That means complex organic chemistry emerged just 700 million years after Earth existed. In geological time, that is essentially overnight. The planet was still being bombarded by asteroids, still cooling from a molten hellscape of rock and toxic gas. And somehow, in that window, life appeared. Biologists have always found the timing suspicious. Then you find the Murchison meteorite, 1969. A rock from space crashed in southeastern Australia. Scientists cracked it open and found over 90 different amino acids inside, the building blocks of life, some of the exact same ones found in every living thing on Earth. Organic chemistry, riding through space on a rock. You read about tardigrades, microscopic organisms. 8-legged, nearly indestructible. Scientists exposed them to the vacuum of space, to cosmic radiation, to temperatures near absolute zero. They survived, In 2019, an Israeli spacecraft carrying a colony of tardigrades crashed on the moon. Scientists believe some may still be viable up there, sitting on the lunar surface, waiting. Life doesn't just exist on Earth, it can travel between worlds. You look up from your screen. The room feels different. You find Dr. Ellis Silver, ecologist, 2013. A book called Humans Are Not From Earth. You almost scroll past it. But you read. Silver isn't talking about UFOs. He's talking about physiology. The sunburn, the back pain, the allergies, the dangerous childbirth, and one more thing, our circadian rhythm runs slightly longer than a 24-hour cycle. Most humans, left in isolation without clocks, default to a day slightly longer than Earth's rotation. Silver argues these aren't quirks of adaptation. They are signs. Signs of a species that did not originate here. You sit with that for a long time. Then, because you need balance, because you need to be honest with yourself, you look up the counterarguments. They're good. You have to admit that. Evolutionary mismatch. That's the term. The idea isn't that we don't belong here. It's that evolution moves slowly, and our environment changed faster than our bodies could keep up. We only started walking upright 6 million years ago. Sounds ancient. But in evolutionary terms, it's recent. The prototype never got its final update. The sunburn makes sense too. We lost our body hair because our ancestors moved on to open savannas and needed to cool down while running for hours under the African sun. Sweat works far better on bare skin than through fur. We traded our protective coat for endurance. The sunburn is the price of being the only animal that can outrun every other animal on the planet. Childbirth, our brains grew faster than our birth canals could keep up. The obstetric dilemma. Evolution was optimizing for intelligence and upright posture at the same time, and the pelvis got caught between them. Messy, dangerous, but logical. Even the environmental destruction has a rational origin. We evolved in small groups where resources felt endless. Our brains are wired for short-term survival, not planetary management. We're not alien invaders. We're just an animal that became too powerful, too fast, for its own wiring to handle. You read all of it. You take it seriously. You don't dismiss it, but then you find the one thing that none of it explains. The speed. No species in 4 billion years of life on Earth has done what we did. Dolphins have existed for roughly 50 million years. Intelligent, complex social lives, communication, emotion. And in 50 million years, they have never built a single tool. Not one. Chimpanzees figured out sticks about 4 million years ago. They have not filed a single upgrade since. And then there is us. Sharpened rocks to nuclear weapons in roughly 2 million years. Fire to the International Space Station. Cave paintings to artificial intelligence. 200 years ago, we didn't have railroads. 125 years ago, airplanes didn't exist. 75 years ago, we hadn't been to space. 35 years ago, there was no internet. Nothing in the history of life on this planet has ever accelerated like that. Nothing even comes close. You sit with that number. 2 million years, against 4 billion, against 50 million for dolphins, unchanged. You run the comparison again. It doesn't shrink. It doesn't become less strange. It just sits there, enormous, unresolved, waiting for an answer that hasn't arrived yet. Scientists have theories. Language, cooking, a mutation in a gene called FUFXP2 that may have unlocked complex speech, the ability to teach, to stack knowledge across generations so each one began exactly where the last one stopped. All of these probably played a role. None of them fully explain the speed. Crick couldn't explain it. Silver couldn't explain it. Modern evolutionary biology can explain pieces. Not the whole thing. Not yet. The most honest answer science has right now is we don't know. You close your laptop. You go to the window. The sun is lower now, afternoon bleeding into evening. And you think about something you haven't read yet. Something that has always been true about humans, and that you've never stopped to examine. No other animal on Earth knows it is going to die. Dogs don't lie awake in the dark wondering what comes after. Dolphins don't have existential crises. Elephants don't build religions to cope with the terror of mortality. But we do. All of us. Every culture in human history. We are the only species walking around with full awareness that one day we will cease to exist. And instead of just accepting it, we spend our entire existence trying to solve it. We build temples. We write philosophies. We create entire civilizations organized around the question of what happens when we die. What survival advantage does existential dread provide? For most of human history, this awareness has driven people to despair, to madness, to war. It feels less like an evolutionary feature and more like a side effect. The side effect of a consciousness that knows, somewhere, somehow, that it is not quite where it's supposed to be. Aware enough to sense that something is wrong, not quite able to figure out what. You think about the ecosystem. Every species on Earth plays a part. Predators keep prey in check. Prey keeps plant life in check. Decomposers recycle everything back into the soil. A closed loop. 4 billion years running. Everybody has a role, except us. We clear forests. We poison rivers. We drive thousands of species to extinction. We are not participating in Earth's ecosystem. We are dismantling it. And if you think about that honestly, that is exactly what you would expect from an invasive species. Something dropped onto a planet it wasn't built for. Something that doesn't know the rules, because the rules were never written for it. You don't know what to conclude. You're not sure there is one. Not a clean one. The evolutionary evidence is strong. Mismatch theory handles most of the strangeness. We are almost certainly a product of this planet, shaped by the same forces that shaped everything else here. Almost certainly. But almost certainly is not definitely. And when real scientists, including one of the founders of modern genetics, look at the evidence and say something here doesn't add up, that isn't conspiracy talk. That is science doing what science is supposed to do. Asking the uncomfortable questions. Being honest when the answers don't come out clean. You think about the restlessness. The one that made you start reading today. The same restlessness that made humans look up at the sky for every generation of recorded history. The same thing that made us build rockets and telescopes and send small robots to other planets just to see what's there. Maybe that restlessness isn't a flaw. Maybe it's a clue. Because if we are from here, then we are the strangest thing this planet has ever produced. A species that burns in its own sunlight, breaks under its own gravity, and cannot stop staring at the sky, wondering where it really came from. And if we're not from here, then we've been trying to find our way home for 200,000 years. And we don't even know it. You go back inside. You turn off the light. But the question doesn't turn off with it. It never does. That's the thing about this kind of thought. Once it finds you, it stays. Quiet, persistent, unresolved. Like a feeling you've had your whole life but never had the words for. Like you walked into a room and forgot why. Like something somewhere is wrong.